It just makes me think of SpongeBob now.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I think we're live. I hope we're live. Fairly certain we are. So welcome to another Balena IoT happy hour. I've got with me some guests here. I will introduce myself first, give everyone a couple of quick minutes to get connected, get logged in, joined up. And then go around the virtual room to see who we have with us. So I'm David, developer advocate at Balena, and I'm hosting the show today. And then I am joined by, looks like Mark is up next. Do you want to say hello, Mark?
Hey, hello, how are you? This is Mark, Balena developer advocate as well. Looking forward to learn about 3D printers.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I don't know too much about. So I'm hoping to learn quite a bit as we go today as well. All right, who's next on the agenda? It looks like Mahmoud. Mahmoud?
Yeah, this is Mahmoud. I'm a hardware engineer from Egypt, and I'm working for Balena since December. And have some 3D printing hobby.
Yeah, okay. We're going to talk more about that. I think it's more than a hobby, but we'll save that for a few moments. Who's up next on the list? Chris, it looks like it's you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris, hardware hacker at Balena. I'm interested to learn from these guys lots of 3D printing tips, because although I do, I'm very much an amateur, so I'm interested to see what the pros are doing.
I would disagree with that and say that you are also a pro, because I've seen.
I can print geese, but that's it.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see that thing. But so I'd categorize you as an expert as well. And then last but not least, Matthew's joining us as well. Matthew,
hello.
Say hello.
I'm Matthew Croughan. You can find me at my my handle here if that's in the same place for you. And I'm a developer wannabe at Balena.
And I see our first comments are rolling in as well, and I see looks like Sahaj is asking for Alan. He wants to buzz him. You could still buzz him even if he's not here. As long as he's sitting in there, he's going to get buzzed. So.
I feel like we're missing something when we don't have Alan on the buzzer.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to have to build a buzzer of my own. I'm going to have to duplicate that work. All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for a quick hello. As Mark mentioned, we're going to be talking 3D printing today. I do not own a 3D printer, so I don't know the first thing about 3D printing. But fortunately, I am joined by three people who absolutely are experts in it. So real quick, normally I do a quick segment on what's on your desk, what new toys have arrived. I have a new toy, but I think I'm going to save it for later because it's not relevant to 3D printing. So I'm gonna hold off, but let's actually pass it over to Mahmoud. What's on your desk? What are you?
Yeah, we have a fin here.
Fin? All right, we've done.
Yeah. The Raspberry Pi 4.
Okay.
And this older one from.
What is this?
I was going to say it was like from Harry Potter or something, yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell the first time you look at it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you 3D printed that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And some next version of fan prototypes.
Whoa! What is that thing? Hold on a minute. Bring that back. I don't know if it's top secret or not, but what? Yeah. What is it?
It's a cheaper version of the current compute module.
Okay. So that looks like an SOM, right? That would be the carrier piece that goes into the fin, and then you put your SoC, your RAM, any storage or anything else on that. Got it. Okay. What else? Anything else? I mean, I know you've got to have more bits and pieces around than that.
Yeah, a lot of electronics, a lot of components, a lot of prototyping boards.
All right, cool. Chris, you want to go next? Anything cool on your desk this week?
I don't know, cool. I've got the Well, I guess the coolest thing is the Google Coral dev board that's sitting here. I haven't really had a
that's
chance to
nice.
play with it yet.
Whoa,
Big heatsink.
Yeah. This fan makes an astronomical amount of noise when it turns on.
Wow.
It's like a little jet engine.
Wow, a CE certified heatsink. Wow.
Yeah. China
Yeah, wait a minute. So what is so I've heard about the Coral board. I've never used one. I mean, I certainly have a ton of other single board computers on my desk, but what does the Coral do?
I guess the special thing about it is that it's optimized to run TensorFlow Lite models on the board. And this is supported in Balena Cloud as a device. So I flashed it onto Balena Cloud and just tested that it works, but that's about as far as I've got at the minute.
Gotcha. All right. So
I guess it's a standalone board that does the same thing as their Edge TPU accelerator, which I've also got somewhere. It's gone missing, but yeah, they do like a USB version as well. So if you've got a Pi, you can plug that into a Pi, but this is their standalone dev board. I think one thing that's quite cool that I noticed is it actually has an onboard audio amp, so you can plug speakers directly into it from the little jack there. I haven't tried it yet, but
wait, speakers into it. So it's got an onboard AI accelerator, a TPU. So you plug it's an amazing machine. It sure is. So you plug the audio in, and then I guess it would be, performing machine learning or analysis on audio feed coming through. Okay.
You can do that, but what I mean is these little terminals here are for a little audio amplifier it has on the board, so you can actually plug speakers directly into it.
Other way around.
Output,
I was thinking of, you're analyzing audio from the environment. I've seen some projects that, do like gunshot detection or other types of, things, wildlife and whatnot. Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. So that's neat. We may have to devote an episode to that once you've got it a little more mature there.
Yeah, I know Alan's working on some cool stuff on that board that we can hopefully talk about in a future episode.
Oh, okay. Does it hook up to his LED buzzer by chance?
I don't know, but it should.
Okay, we'll make it happen. All right, and then that leaves Matthew. What's on your desk this week?
It wasn't quite on my desk. It was in my drawer. I got this not too long ago. It's an Odroid H2. Don't know if you've seen this. It's awesome. It's an x86 machine, and it's got, you could use it as a powerful router if you want, because it's got 2 gigabit switches and things. And it's passively cooled, no fan. But what I want to do with this is I want to run 3 virtual machines. I want to run Windows, macOS, and Linux on the one machine, which is possible. Thing? Yeah, absolutely, it can do it. It is an amazing. Well, it would be an amazing machine if it was.
There's a common thing.
There sure is an amazing. I'm starting to feel like I should have. Now I guess we're going into single board computer mode. Maybe I should have grabbed the one I had. So tell me. So this is an x86 device.
That's right. So it will run. It's got Intel HD graphics 620 or something like this. It's not a particularly powerful CPU. It's like a dual core. 4-threaded machine. It's got 2 SATA ports. You could use it as a NAS, but the bottom line is it's got the virtualization extensions VTD, which allows you to pass through graphics cards to virtual machines via VFIO PCI Express pass-through. And better than that, it also supports Intel GVTG, which means that you can split the graphics card up into multiple virtual GPUs to give to a cluster of virtual machines. So I could have macOS, Linux, and Windows running on the same machine and output through DisplayPort, probably. It's got 2 of these, so maybe I could have a DisplayPort hub and pass it out to separate hubs, and it'll all be running on the one machine.
Well, yet another future episode right there. Yep. That'd be pretty neat to see. I didn't realize that it had all of those features as well. I've seen the name of it, but hadn't really, looked into it.
These are just Intel CPU extension things. It's like any modern Intel laptop can do the same thing that I'm going to attempt to do with this.
Yeah. All right. It looks a little bit bigger than a Raspberry Pi, but still not huge. I mean, I could see by the the size and shape of it. So
I don't know what form factor it is. It's got kind of a weird power supply too. So as a result, it might not be worth it for most people. But as a desktop replacement, probably quite cool. Got a strange power supply you have to get from them. It's like a 15 volt.
Yeah, I see a comment for Sahaj. x86 is dead by the end of the year. Well, I saw Mac this week, the WWDC. Saw Apple has announced a transition to ARM-based processors on their laptops as well, similar to what they use in the iPhone and the iPad. So
which means that at some stage we'll be able to emulate or rather virtualize macOS on something like a Pi, which makes things better for everyone because we can then use the software on something like a single board computer rather than
I hadn't
a big
thought
machine.
about that. Hadn't thought about that. Yeah, so my Pi could run Mac OS. Okay, so
relatively slowly. I mean,
hey, that's all right.
The Pi 4, you can hook up a graphics card, right? You can put PCI Express into the Pi 4, so maybe it could be done. I don't know much about ARM.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to do some hacking. All right, so interesting stuff on everyone's desk as usual. Quick reminder, I saw that we had put up, by all means, any questions, drop them into the YouTube chat. I will get them relayed through to the panel to get answered. So if, as we're having our discussion, if you think of anything, just drop it in chat and I'll get it relayed through. All right, next up, we're gonna start our discussion on 3D printing, as mentioned, of which I know nothing about. So I need to start off with a couple of some basic opening questions here. And keeping it kind of light, kind of fun, I'm kind of wondering, Matthew, Mahmoud, what is the largest thing you've ever printed? I mean, how big can you get an object out of a standard home type of 3D printer?
Should I answer that, or should Mahmoud answer first? Or?
You go first.
I have not printed anything massive, but I mean, useful things. I've printed lots of useful things, like this thing, which is a guitar holder, right? Just put that on the wall, and that's all made out of PLA as well, so it's biodegradable in a way. And yeah, so that's a useful thing that I've printed. That's really thick. It's not quite big, but the biggest thing I've printed is like drawers and things, like that style of drawer. Right.
Okay.
And you can print that whole shelf. And I'm going to do that at some point, but nothing really that big because it's not, things can go wrong and it's not that terribly useful at the end of the day.
Okay. Makes some sense because I've seen people, these projects where people are like 3D printing houses and cars. And I have to wonder, how are they going about doing this? Again, being a little bit naive here, I don't fully understand. But,
it's the same principle. Every 3D printer works on the same principle roughly, like it's motors X, Y, and Z, and you can do anything within that volume as long as the environment doesn't disturb the process.
All right. And then what is your favorite thing that you've printed?
It's probably those guitar holders. Yeah,
guitar holders. Yeah. Okay, that
Simple.
makes sense. All right, Mahmoud, are you there as well?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. What is the largest thing you've printed?
It was a part consisted of multiple parts. Do you know Ned Stark sword from Game of Thrones?
No.
I can picture it. Well, I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah. Find a picture, find a link, drop it in chat. King of the North. I think Andrew might be backstage having some fun. All right. Well, while we're looking for that, so then what I'd say, how about the other one, which is what is your favorite thing you've printed?
Maybe just one.
Ooh,
Okay.
that's the headphone stand. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's a headphone stand.
Oh,
printed.
yeah, you gotta hang your headphones up on. Okay.
You can
That's
buy
pretty
those.
Give it some sanding and finishing.
You can buy those for like
printed.
you can buy those for like £40, right? You can get really expensive headphone stands
Yeah.
that look just like that, right? Like stainless steel and all that, and that costs you £40, but you can just 3D print it for nothing. It's amazing.
All right. So
I've got this
Before-
thing. This is probably
Okay.
like the biggest thing I've printed.
what is that?
That's nice.
this is it's like a perfectly square box. It has no features whatsoever, but it's
So you put it on.
I can
What's that
print
sticker
square
on it?
things,
Got a sticker.
but it's got a sticker like check.
Got some-
So it's got a nice beefy 5-volt mean-well power supply in the bottom that you can just see. Power in.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a power supply. Okay.
And then it's got a Pi which is layered in on top, and it's a controller for RGB LED strings.
It goes together quite nicely though. Everything that I've printed that has not been square has been, flawed in some way, because when you don't print square, things happen strangely.
Yeah.
Weird things happen.
Okay, so I was wondering what all those wires hanging out of it were, but now that makes more sense. All right, so that sounds good. Let's take a quick dive more specifically then into printers themselves. I want to start with Mahmoud though. You have done some really cool work with some protective gear and some of your local healthcare needs there. You're joining from Egypt, as you mentioned. Can you give me a little bit of a quick overview on some of the work you've done there locally with your pandemic response stuff?
Mm-hmm. Prusa launched a cool project at the beginning of COVID outbreak. So they designed a protective mask, and it looks good. So I started replicating this mask on my MK2 Prusa 3D printer here. And I arranged doing same prints with some friends to cover some nearby hospitals needs. And we go through the process of sanitizing and preparing these parts to be used for medical uses. But we stopped because I guess it's not the perfect solution for medical uses at this time, and we have some shortage of suitable materials in the local market in Egypt.
Interesting. And I think, Matthew, you've done the same up in Liverpool, right? You had a project that we talked about when you were on the show previously, that you were doing some medical supply printing as well.
Yeah, so that was kind of, we didn't do much with 3D printing in that way, because we had like, say, 4 3D printers. And we were also doing the Prusa design, because that was the only design that was really, validated to go ahead and, be used medically. And that didn't really work out so well in the end, because we couldn't produce lots of those, because it took like 4 hours to print or something like that. There were more optimal designs. We could have used a 1mm nozzle, which would have allowed you to squeeze out more plastic in a faster time on the printers, and then like get it done in 30 minutes. And then we even tried to automatically dislodge it. I've got a video of that somewhere where I failed on mine. It's really hard to get consistency with 3D printers, which is why the Prusas are so cool, because they are so consistent. But with the hodgepodge of 3D printers that we have, we just couldn't do it. So we ended up doing laser cut designs instead, which we're able to produce in like minute, 2 minutes, per visor, or even less than that, maybe 30 seconds per visor. So we do a whole sheet, put the sheet in, laser cut it, open the hatch, take it out, put the next sheet in, and get busy picking the pieces out and assembling them, or at least putting them into their boxes ready for shipment. And we decontaminate those for 5 days and then send them out. And we had a whole campaign about it, which raised quite a bit of money.
Cool. That's awesome. That's very cool. Awesome. All right. So you guys have thrown out a couple of brand names along the way right there. So it's a perfect point to transition into what are some of the common printers that are out there, and which ones do you guys prefer to use? And I'll just go right around. Chris, you want to start on that one?
Yeah, I can go first. Like a long time ago, when I first bought a printer, I had a DaVinci something or other, and it was in a big box, and it only printed ABS, and it was a very painful experience. And then I stayed out of the 3D printing game for quite a while until the Ender 3 came along. No, actually, sorry, I had a Wanhao Duplicator i3, I think, first.
Nice.
and that's kind of like a rough kit, and you need to print lots of bits to stabilize it and make it a bit more solid. But then when I started at Balena, I got the Ender 3, and that's been really good. It's like, I think it was £180 when I got it, and out of the box, it's really good out of the box. And then there's loads of improvements you can make. But for me, one of the biggest pains and like annoyances is having to level the bed. So recently I put in the BL Touch bed leveling probe, so the head can go down and probe the bed in various points, and then it does a point map in software, so it can make sure that it adjusts for the bed even if it's not perfectly level. And that just improved the experience so much for me. It meant I could actually use the machine to make things instead of just swearing at it and trying to set it up.
So wait a minute. you have a 3D printer and it's out of the box, not working great, and you're swearing at it. I don't know. That doesn't sound like a perfect experience, but
I mean, the Ender 3 is really good out of the box. It's like, don't let me put you off. That's a great starting machine. But I found that it's like I wanted to just walk up to the machine and press a button. So this is where Matthew's project helped quite a lot, because he's done the OctoPrint and OctoDash setup. So I put that on my machine, and with the bed leveling probe as well, that completely transformed it. So it's like maybe £180 for the printer, and then £90 for some extra bits, and you've got a pretty nice machine. And that's what I'm using right now, anyway.
All right. So I've got some thoughts on that. We'll come back to that. But Mahmoud, do you want to go next? What's your printer of choice, and what are some of the ones you've got some experience with?
Most of my experience was with Prusa products. So I have here MK2, and my plan is to bring the latest version, so MK3S, I guess. And if you try to switch to another 3D printing technology, you can get Formlabs. They have a great 3D printer.
All right, and then Matthew, you're up. What are you using? What's that behind you?
That behind me is the same one that Chris has, and everything Chris said I can echo. That's pretty much my experience with it as well. I got the stock Ender 3. I got it a bit cheaper than he did for like £110, £120 on eBay when it came out.
Oh,
well,
damn.
not when it came out. Well, way after it came out, I suppose, which is why it was so cheap. Funny enough, the prices have went up since the whole COVID thing occurred, because I think people have been buying them to help out. I mean, I know that we did in the space. We bought a few 3D printers to attempt to produce a bunch of visors, which ended up failing in the end. Not the right manufacturing method in a lot of ways, but we bought quite a few of them. So yeah, I recommend the Creality printers because they're really cheap and they do things and you can upgrade them really easily. Whereas the other ones that are sort of integrated, you can't get at them. You can't really upgrade them. I mean, you can, but you risk breaking it in the process, just like modern smartphones or anything like that. That's not so modular. But they've got a new one out, which is much better than this. Again, it's called the CR6 SE. And what that is, it has like a force sensing resistor instead of the BL Touch probe, which is just literally effectively a button. You can make it with a button. You just go, if this is the probe and this is the bed, the moment it hits the bed, it retracts and it's in some way accurate. It's accurate enough to level the bed properly because it turns out you don't need that much precision to do that with filaments. However, the force sensing resistor that's in the new Creality is so much more integrated and you can't screw it up as much and you don't have to recompile the firmware and flash it to the printer to get it to recognize that there's a BL Touch there. It's a really nice integrated experience on the new one. So I think if I was getting one today, I'd get the CR6 SE rather than that. But that has been outstanding.
And what are some of the other ones you've used? Because you've also got, I know, over at the Makerspace local to you, some units over there. What are those ones?
The Ultimakers, just Ultimaker S2. It's kind of like an old model at this point, but they've lasted us a long time. We've had to repair them, but repairing them is a nightmare because they're in a box, right? And this box is like a laser cut acrylic sheet or something like that. And the stepper motors are screwed in to two sides. So you've got walls like this. And in between my hands here, there's like a stepper motor. And the stepper motor is screwed in that way. And it's screwed in that way. So if you want to unscrew the stepper motor, you go unscrew, unscrew. And it'll just like drop to the bottom, right? So then you have to take the whole thing apart, put it back together again, just for the luxury of having this case. And so that's a lot of what I have to deal with when dealing with those printers in the makerspace, is repairing them or doing any sort of upgrade to them is a hassle compared to that. But we do have them, and they are really good in the sense that they are a lot more sturdy, let's say, than that is, because that won't last as long. The motors will wear out faster, or the bed will need adjusting more often, because that's a two-part design, right? The bed is moving forward and back, and the head is moving left and right. So you don't actually get what you get with the Ultimakers, where the bed moves up and the head moves separate from the bed. The bed moves up on the Ultimaker and stays there. It doesn't move anywhere. Whereas on that, the bed moves. So it's kind of a bit more finicky to get things really reliable on that, because you might have to adjust the eccentrics, which are like the wheels and stuff, and tighten the wheels and things more often. So there's pros and cons to each design approach, but that's really cheap. The Ultimakers cost like $1,000 when they came out, and might cost like £600 now, and the replacement parts don't exist as far as I'm aware. Like getting a new glass bed for an Ultimaker S2 or an S3, different prices, because they're rectangular glass rather than square glass, and maybe that costs more or something, or maybe they just don't have as many factories that make rectangle glass versus square, because that's square. So yeah.
Interesting. Are there any other units out there? What are some of the other brand names that you've perhaps used in the past, or have some good features of their own? Have we, again, myself not knowing them all, are there any others that we've skipped over?
I'd say Anycubic, because Anycubic have the Anycubic Photon, which is the cheapest entry-level resin printer that you can get, which is just a screen with all of the screen bits taken out and just used for the ability to shine light through pixels, UV light through these pixels. I forgot what that part is in an LCD that allows the light to shine through. Whatever that array is, we're just using it to let the light through. And that's all it is. You could use your phone screen, for example, if you could take it apart as the resin printing bed. It's really cool technology. And you get much more accurate prints that are based on resolution of the display. And they can be really, really sturdy. I know of one case where someone has made a silencer for a pistol using a resin printed part. And it works better or as good as the metal part.
Interesting. So one of the other things that you guys have all been talking about, and then we'll come back around to Mahmoud and Chris, I think, for some input here as well, is I didn't quite realize how much maintenance or hands-on work or upkeep or perhaps, you're talking, I heard you mention flashing firmware and replacing motors and so on and so forth. I mean, it's almost like driving a vehicle and requiring maintenance on that. I sort of assumed these things, you purchase, shows up from Amazon, you plug it in, and away you go. Are there units that are designed more for beginners? I mean, how would someone like me get started with that then? Because I don't know anything about maintaining and taking apart these boxes and your stepper motors that are in it. Like, are there better systems that are more turnkey, or do they all require all of this, in my view, upkeep?
I think there's a whole range, isn't there? And it largely depends on how much you want to invest. Because it's like something like the Ender 3 is a good balance between, like, it's really low cost and it gets you a reasonable result out of the box. But then, as Matthew says, it's going to require some maintenance the more you use it, like tuning the eccentric wheels and tightening the belts and all that kind of stuff. But then, like, at the other end of the scale, there's like machines that cost like thousands and thousands of pounds, like that professional architects use for printing out like a scale model of a building. And obviously they don't want to be messing around tuning the printer all the time. They just want to hit print and have a perfect print come out. So I think there are turnkey solutions, but they're going to be more expensive than just something that you can tinker with. And then I guess sort of the Ultimakers maybe perhaps like a middle ground where you're losing some of the maintainability and the parts are a bit more expensive, but in theory it works a bit better out of the box. But yeah, it's certainly it's an interesting industry because it's still new, so it's still maturing. There's nothing like, you can't just buy like a 40 quid inkjet printer and have it work. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of, I guess, where I was sort of, drawing a little bit of a parallel in my mind is, I can just buy a printer, plug it in, it's USB, hit print, and away we go.
Don't need any drivers.
I don't have to, like, I guess I know, you certainly have to replace the ink tank. Okay, fine, I get that, but I'm not tightening belts. I'm not changing motors. I'm not like leveling the bed. I mean, I understand, of course, in 3D printing is different, but there's no maintenance on a regular printer.
Yeah.
So it seems like
and we haven't even started talking about the software yet.
Oh, well, that's where we're headed next. So, Mahmoud, is there anything you want to add? From the maintenance and upgrading and like keeping the thing actually running perspective?
Yeah, speaking about Prusa, you can buy it in two versions. One is fully assembled and fully calibrated, so you can get it and start working or 3D printing. And the other one is a kit, so you can get it and assemble it step by step. And I prefer this one because you get familiar with the parts and know how to maintain it. And fix any issues might appear later. In my case, I have the 3D printer for like 5 years or 4 years. Most of the issues was replacing some broken parts, recalibrating the printer, upgrading some parts that add functionality to the printer, upgrading to a newer version like MK2S, for example. That's it.
All right. Well, I guess with that hardware discussion out of the way, let's talk about software. Matthew, I know you've got some experience here, and we can head into your project called OctoPrint in just a moment. But before we do that, these printers, again, being naive, okay, I make the purchase, it shows up in a box, I plug it in. It's got to be running some kind of software, right? Do they each then have their own native software that they ship with, and I just, hook it up via USB to my laptop or my desktop PC, and I've, got my, obviously you need some 3D modeling software. But when you go to hit print, do they come with, I guess, a turnkey or pre-installed software setup, and what does that look like?
They do come with a pre-installed software setup on the firmware. So inside that printer and every other printer is a microcontroller, like an Arduino. In this case, it literally is an Arduino. It's an Arduino 80 mega 1284P, right? Which is like bottom of the barrel, not very much storage. But it's an 8-bit microcontroller that just so happens to have enough processing power to do what it does, which is take G-code, interpret that G-code and do stuff with the motors based on that G-code. And all G-code is like, G28 is arbitrary. It means on Marlin firmware, G28 is lingo for go home, as in like home the printer to the left, or the end stops. So like the little switch that clicks in order to tell it that it's homed one of the components. It's a fragmented mess though, in the sense that I get that it's got Marlin 1.6 or 1.7, and that comes from the Creality factory, and it's got the Creality logo on it. And maybe they've tweaked some options in the open source Marlin firmware that I don't know about, because they haven't provided me with the config file they've used for the Marlin firmware. They just compiled it, flashed it to the microcontroller, give it to me, right? And now if I want to add a BL touch to that, like an auto bed leveling probe, or I want to change some parts of it that requires changes in the software, I have to essentially reverse engineer their approach, which thankfully lots of people have given the configs based on what they figured out. Because it's not that hard. It's like, for example, let's say that the homing procedure happens faster out of the factory on those. That's because they've increased the feed rate that the motors move at in the firmware by changing one constant. They come out of the box with firmware that runs on the 8-bit microcontroller, and then you can augment that with something like OctoPrint, which is running on a Raspberry Pi and feeding G-code through the USB, kind of like how you would use a printer cable to print directly to your printer.
Gotcha. Okay, and do the various brands of the 3D printer then each ship with their own type of software, their own implementation. So, you know, the Creality or the Ender, or each one comes out of the box with its own, I don't know if I want to say GUI or whatnot, but you need to know and learn that native firmware depending upon the brand. There's no standard across that, correct?
I would say that's not so correct. I mean, a lot of people do just use Marlin. Some people don't. Like the original RepRap 3D printers, these are printers that started the whole 3D printing boom, which were like an open source design because some patents expired, which allowed these simple designs to be made, sold, and, you know, improved upon. Those don't run Marlin, but, you know, in the past 5 years, let's say, maybe not even 5 years, maybe 3 years, 2 years, everyone's basically using Marlin, because Ultimaker use a modified version of Marlin, which is this firmware you can find on GitHub. Okay,
so that's actually really good. Yeah, I did not know that, and I would have assumed that there was some fragmentation in the market and that they each went about, you know, shipping their own implementation, but that's actually really nice to hear. There's some standardization around it.
FDM printers being fused deposition modeling, which means it squirts out some filaments and puts it on the bed and makes it stiff. That kind of a printer typically uses Marlin, but all of the other ones, all of the newer technologies like SLS, selective laser sintering, which is like taking a laser and fusing like metal or powder, the other one, which is DLP, which is the resin printers, which uses a screen, shines UV light through pixels, and makes some resin solid. That kind of a printer runs firmware that you don't even want to know about, because like it's all proprietary or all custom or whatever. So it's only like this in the FDM printing world, pretty much.
Okay, so that's actually pretty good then. So what does OctoPrint then bring to the game? Let's go down that road.
I could probably give a demonstration in a minute if you want, because actually I took the SD card out before I come in, so I could maybe do a demonstration. I don't know if we got time for that though. Maybe we do.
Well, so I'm looking at the clock. We've got about 20 minutes or so left, so we can certainly squeeze in a demo. You know, Chris or Mahmoud, if you want to take over real quick about give me a little context on what OctoPrint is, and then, you know, Matthew can sort of set up and get ready for a quick demo.
I guess you could place OctoPrint as like a lot of the printers come with a slot for an SD card, so you can put an SD card in and you can print your G-code file straight off the SD card. I mean, how you actually create the G-code file is another matter that we haven't even touched on yet. And obviously that means you have to put the file on the SD card, you have to walk to the printer and put the SD card in the printer. Whereas what OctoPrint is doing is running a web interface on a Pi, which is connected directly to the printer, which means you're able to then access that remotely from another computer via a web browser. And from that web interface, you're then able to adjust some parameters of the print, upload your G-code files, start prints, and it has you can plug in a webcam so you can monitor them remotely. So if anything goes wrong with the print, you can stop it remotely, that sort of thing, which is handy because they make a really annoying noise. So you don't necessarily want them next to your workspace the whole time. So if you've got one out in the garage or in the shed or something like that, you can monitor it and control it remotely.
Actually, though, just to add to that point about them being quite loud, they can be loud, but you can actually get motherboards that have stepper motor controllers that make them so whisper quiet you don't know what's going on, because you actually get used to the sounds of the printer. You know when it's homed, because it makes this loud clunking noise that's really characteristic. But once you get this motherboard, it's so quiet that all of those cues go away, right? You don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, I put one of those in mine actually, and the difference it made is insane. As Matthew says, it went from like the noisiest annoying thing to I can't believe they managed to make these motors silent just with different electronics, because it's the same mechanics at the end of the day, but now they're not making any noise.
Interesting. So I didn't realize, I guess, that you put an SD card into the printer. So I shot JR mentioned the SD card shuffle. I, again, totally naively assumed it just hooked up via USB like like an inkjet printer. and you are printing directly from the thing. And maybe that capability does exist or whatnot, but I didn't realize about the SD card shuffle. So then, well, if you have these in a separate workspace, they're not next to you, then I can see how the Pi with a web interface and just upload the file via that browser and control and print from that secondary unit. The Pi could be a big advantage. Okay, so that's making more sense. So, and OctoPrint is open source, correct?
That's right. OctoPrint is open source on GitHub. And the person who makes it is called Fusel. That's the alias of the person. I forget her actual name.
Gotcha. Okay. So then, what is it that you have then taken a step further, Matthew? You've gone and containerized that application in order to then deploy it via Balena, which of course leads to the the fleet management and multiple devices and ability to control them no matter where they are. But do you need a 1-to-1 ratio of a Pi to a 3D printer, or can one Pi run multiple printers?
Well, I've been thinking about that actually. It possibly could happen. I don't know if Docker Compose version 2 supports replicas. I don't know if that's in the spec. But if it does, then we could use the current existing application to do /dev/tty USB 1 is printer 1 and printer 2. And theoretically, you could have 1,024 printers, let's say, on the one Pi. I don't actually know what the bottleneck would be, because the bandwidth really is not it. I don't know how many printers you could run. Maybe that would be a fun challenge.
Okay, so that'd be interesting. Yeah, because you get into these scenarios where, what if you're talking about scaling? How does a company like Thingiverse or any of the other commercial, well, actually Thingiverse, I don't know if they have production. Can you purchase prints off of there? But I know there's other ones out there where you can make the purchase of, 100 pieces, 200 pieces, whatever. So I have to wonder then how they're doing it in bulk.
I've got an answer for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so you've got these things called Infinite Z printers, and what they are is it's a factory assembly line. You just get a conveyor belt, and it just peels the print off at the very end. So you can print whatever you want on this, and it'll just go peel off into a bin. So this is probably more what's actually being used if there is any mass FDM manufacturing going on. You see there, conveyor belt. Sticks on, peels off at the end, and just goes right into a bin. And that can go on forever, for as long as you've got filaments. Okay,
gotcha. So not necessarily get 100 printers. It's more of a just keep cycling them through. Gotcha.
Although they may have many of those printers, because that will increase things like threading. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then so does OctoPrint, or in your particular case, OctoBalena, can it run any 3D printer? We talked about all those brands. Is it brand agnostic?
OctoPrint handles that quite well. In fact, that's actually one of the reasons that OctoPrint is so slow, is because it's written in Python, and it does string manipulation all over the place and string parsing all over the place, just to determine what firmware is being ran on printers, because it wants to support everything. So in doing that, it just simply does something over serial, gets some feedback, and if it gets feedback, interprets that feedback, and then, because there still is quite a lot of proprietary custom implementations out there. There's maybe 10 more. Okay.
And then my last totally naive question is, can it run on any type of a Raspberry Pi, or do you need a specific type to, a 3, a 3B, whatever?
I was quite optimistic that Python 3, because OctoPrint recently upgraded to Python 3, I was quite optimistic that would have some performance impact, and maybe it will. I haven't actually tested that yet, but last time I checked, I could not run it on a Pi Zero, for example, right? Because the doing stuff like that over Wi-Fi, like sending files over Wi-Fi or looking at the web interface over Wi-Fi, there's something about the Pi Zero's Wi-Fi circuitry that interrupts the USB circuitry, which is, of course, sending the G-code, which cannot go on without affecting the print. So the USB circuitry has to be uninterrupted, and the Pi Zero can't do that, as far as I'm aware.
That was actually, the reason for the question was a Pi 3 obviously is not a large device, but a Pi 0 being significantly smaller, I was wondering, if you start, like, where does it go? How do you attach it? Put it in a separate box next to the 3D printer, et cetera. So I was kind of curious about that. But a Pi 3 or a standard Pi footprint is not huge. So, okay, no worries there. Mahmoud, do you have any other context or thoughts on OctoPrint? Have you used it before, and what's your experience with it?
Yeah, last year we was prototyping some cases for our product, and we needed the 3D printer to be working 24 hours. That's why we monitored the first batch during our stay in the office in the morning, and we need to set up a new batch before we leave and monitor it using OctoPrint. So it was handy to observe everything using the webcam and make sure the print is going well, and stop it or pause it if your filament is about to finish, or is there any issues or mistakes. So yeah.
Forgot about the fact that you guys had mentioned that it has support for a webcam as well.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be really convenient, especially if
it's very, very handy to see a time lapse after your print is finished, and you can see all the printing process, whatever it takes. Maybe your print takes 12 hours, for example.
All right. Well, I guess that's something to keep in mind. I had not even considered that. Matthew, I'm looking at the clock. We've got about 15 minutes or so.
Can we do it? I'll tell you, there'll be parts of this where it's like, just talk over and just talk about something else, because, of course, it takes time to build it and things. So, yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I've got an SD card here. Should we do it?
Absolutely. Let's go for it. Let's try.
All right, then. So you go to the OctoBalena page, github.com/Matthew Croughan/OctoBalena. You pop your SD card into your SD card slot on your machine. You check the message if you're running on Windows. No, I'm only joking. Just to make sure that the SD card is in properly. And there it is. That's on the wrong side.
Yeah, switch that around
so,
if you don't mind.
Deploy with Balena. Hopefully I haven't run my account out of limits.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do about that.
It's time to upgrade, Matthew.
Yes, I've got to upgrade. Right, so application. Create a new application instead. Application name, call it StreamYard. I don't know, that's all that's in my head. Pi 3. And it's going to need the Wi-Fi, isn't it?
Hold on, let me get my pencil. Let me get my pencil. Let me get my pencil to write it down. Hold on.
So here we go. We're creating it and deploying it effectively, which I guess is kicking off some build process in the server that I can't see at the moment. Add device, give it the Wi-Fi. And thankfully, the passphrase is hidden this time. And that's it. Download it.
All right. While that build is running and the OS is coming down and you get going there for the device.
And we're done. Now all we need to do is flash it. No, that was so fast.
I was going to try to sneak in a question. Can you automate the refill of filament, or is that a manual thing? Mahmoud or Chris, you want to handle that while Matthew's demoing away over there?
I mean, I guess it could. But I haven't ever seen that done, because it's quite like normally you have to heat the print head and then you pull the filament out and you put the new one in, which is kind of a manual process. I'm just trying to think how you would automate that. I guess if you were printing on a large scale, you'd have much bigger reels of filament for a start, so you're not going to be running out quite as often.
So you want to make sure you have
a printer. So some prints have a sensor to sense when the filament is about to finish. So if your printer have multiple nozzles, or it can extract the current filament and inject another one. So yeah, you can do it. You just need to add the two filament spools holders, and the printer will handle it.
So are we ready to flash this now? So
Yeah,
we do
let's do it.
balena, local command, flash, the name of the file, and then the drive, which in my case is /dev/mmcblk0. And Etcher is quite smart, and for some reason it flashes my SD cards a lot faster than anything else, and I don't understand why. Maybe someone can alliterate.
We'll give that one to Chris.
Well, it does do some clever stuff where if there's empty space in the image, it doesn't bother writing the empty space. That's one of the main things.
That's really cool. Because that would have taken, if I did DD, that would have taken quite a lot longer, right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of clever stuff under the hood in Etcher, and that's one of the main ones.
Have you seen the forum thread that's saying that they're going to block Balena's site? They're going to tell Microsoft to block Balena because it broke their USB drive.
Oh, jeez.
It's the Etcher brick.
It makes my Etcher kill my USB stick.
Yeah.
It just makes my head hurt.
Yeah, some of the comments are, the users don't fully understand, but we always try to educate and ensure that they get on their way.
The problem is usually because they flashed a Linux image that's full of ext4 partitions that Windows then can't recognize or remove.
Yeah. So I was thinking actually, this is completely unrelated and has nothing to do with Balena, but what would happen to Windows if you made an NTFS drive with 16,384 NTFS partitions, and you plugged it in because it auto mounts it? What would happen? Would Windows just explode? I'm so curious.
So you better find out.
Right. So that's done now. And we've got our SD cards, and I'm going to go plug that in, which involves me taking my headphones off and using some calipers because my printer's Pi is on with zip ties, and it's around the back, and it's got a cable, and I don't want to unplug the cable and do the big rigmarole, so I'm going to go plug that in.
Sorry, we'll come up with some small talk.
So we got a question come in.
Uh-oh, let's see it. I've not tried OctoPrint yet. Do I just have a Pi talking to my Mega, or does the Pi replace my Mega?
Do you mean the Mega that's in the printer? If so, the Pi talks to it. So the microprocessor in the printer is still doing all the work of controlling the stepper motor drivers and all that stuff. The Pi is just feeding that processor with the G code. It's streaming it in. So they work side by side. I still need to hook mine up because it's like whenever I use Matthew's project, I flash a Pi and just throw it over there next to the printer and like a whole mess of wires. I need to print one of these nice boxes that holds it, or at least zip ties.
Yeah, well, we've determined that you do know how to print a nice cube. So
a cube, I've got there.
Yeah,
okay. Well, I can do that.
So yeah, I mean, we know that you can print a square.
What else have I got? I can also print. I've got the train sign on my desk as well. That was a good little 3D print.
Train sign, yeah, you printed that. Now you mentioned early though something about a goose.
The goose is not here.
The goose isn't here?
No, the goose is gone.
I was hoping we could see the goose.
Shall we power it on?
Yeah, let's try it. Did you say a prayer to the demo gods?
Not yet. I don't believe in them.
It's living dangerously. All right, SD card is in.
Maybe I plugged the SD card in wrong. Oh dear.
They only go in one way.
Look, see, Matthew's got the screen nicely mounted on top.
No, zip ties. Terrible. Look at it.
Okay. I mean, from the front, it looks good.
Oh, maybe I knocked the display cable out. Maybe I did something like that. Ah, there we go.
There we go. Now that unit, again, showing my lack of knowledge here, that printer did not come with that LCD that you've got all zip tied up there. That LCD is what, a Pi display that you have. You just showed the back of it. So that was a Pi zip tied to the frame. Okay, yeah, here we go. So you've kind of added all of this after the fact then.
That's right. It's such a simple, minimalistic bodge And we see here that
it's coming online. Yep.
Oh, it's coming online, right?
Yep.
And we're going to have to do display rotate as well, because that's the wrong way up. So maybe we can show people how to do that as well.
No, just flip the screen over.
No, it wouldn't go on any other way. I actually tried. That took me so long, and then I realized I could change it in software.
There we go.
Right.
But we can see it back there. Okay, so Falling Bird is online for a few seconds. All right.
Call it @end3.
So hopefully the build completed in the background while you were doing all that.
Yeah, and if it didn't,
Yeah, because target release is still factory build.
Yeah, so this is the only downside I can see with the deploy to Balena thing, but in the sense that I can't actually see what the build is doing in the background, because it is quite a lengthy build.
I mean, if you go back to the application page, there's a little notification at the top of it still building.
Oh, is there? Wow, that's cool. Didn't know that.
No, yeah, so like in the application, yeah. So it normally appears to the right of where it says track latest. That's where it would appear if it's still building at the very top. But if you go down to releases on the left.
Releases on the left, yeah.
And then we can see what's happening.
It failed.
Oh,
It failed. Why did it fail? Octo-dash failed for an unknown reason. Right, okay then. Let's interactively, let's do this.
are we going to have to do some live troubleshooting? Although I see that Rich has now hopped.
Everything's burning. Right.
Is that a steamed ham? I see Rich has hopped into chat. He's got an Ender 3, he's saying. So he's going to...
Yeah, Rich is rocking the Ender 3 as well.
Yeah.
He gives me all the tips.
Might need him to troubleshoot that.
But it's okay though. It's okay. Here's why. Because we can put this on in the background, and hopefully we find the reason out. In the meantime, we can move this to the working application. We can move the device.
Because you've already got one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
That's what we did the other week.
Yeah.
So it moves to another application, right? One that works.
And then
OctoBalena dev.
Oh, everybody is rolling in here now. Alex has joined as well. He's got it.
Oh yeah,
running on
Alex is
Ender
another member
3.
of the Ender 3 crew.
I didn't know we had so many Ender 3s.
Oh, it might be the build servers if it's taken this long to actually push it.
I mean, if you go back to the releases, and it should say in those logs there on the right-hand side in the failed build.
Right. So there's before I started the stream. That was that. So Matt Ender 3 is updating it. It's downloading everything from my last night's build before I moved it to the separate application or removed the SD card entirely. And it's downloading the MDNS publisher, OctoDash, OctoPrint, and Traffic or Traffic, which we'll get into in a bit.
Is that Sakshab there in chat? It's got the Ender 3 as well. God, they're
Is
well
everybody
represented.
on the Ender 3?
Yeah.
They've sold a lot of them.
It's just the most like it's the AK-47 of printers or something. I don't know.
No.
It's it can handle a lot of abuse as well, and there's all sorts of replacement parts. It's like the ThinkPads of printers. Yeah, my laptop's dying at the JavaScript on this page, I'm afraid. Speaking of ThinkPads that are doing way too much work.
Oh, that's. I'm looking at the clock. We're going to run over by a few minutes, but that's all right. So I certainly understand if folks need to drop off to head to other meetings and whatnot. But we'll keep at it.
Can you show Matthew how do you connect the Raspberry Pi with the Arduino?
It looked like he just had a revelation of what the failure was, but we couldn't see.
Oh, you can't see it, right?
It's like, I just saw you highlight something and go, ah.
The Docker file cannot be empty. What does that mean? Because of course, if we do it like this, if we do it by the command line, there's all sorts of these problems in the Balena workflow I've found, right? For example, I cannot push something locally and build locally on the Pi because the Docker build server's version is different. It doesn't understand the same things that the local build server on the Pi does. And maybe something similar is going on here. It says that the Docker file is empty because it's looking for a Docker file, not Dockerfile.template, right? Or something, maybe something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be strange. Like if there are any cases like that, we'd want to know about them because it should be. Obviously, you should get the same result, or at least it should be handled gracefully.
Yeah. Is that in the
issues?
Is that in the forums, Matthew? Did you drop that one in there or no?
I did, yeah. I did drop
that one in there.
I've cross-linked everything between the forum and GitHub, so there is at least one way to get there.
Okay, so, or that was the other thing I was going to say is a GitHub issue, but if it's in the forums...
Oh, okay. Maybe it's the fact that I've sim-linked it. Maybe it's something strange like this, because I've got Dockerfile.build and Dockerfile.binary, which are my ideas saying, okay, this contains how to actually build the application, and this is just pulling it from GitHub and installing it with DPKG. And I've sim-linked the one that I want to use into the repository relatively. And the Balena CLI doesn't have a problem with that, but maybe the build server does. Yeah. It's my fault, if so.
Well, but it's still, I mean, something that, perhaps we need to take a look at.
Yeah, I put something up to the Balena sound thing, right? The Balena sound repo. I submitted a pull request, and the Balena CI bot just failed. Why? Because I'm doing unconventional things and putting hashtags in my my branch names, so it didn't know how to parse the hashtag. So I'm always breaking things.
It's good to break stuff. That's my theory.
Right,
I'm always encouraging breaking stuff.
Should totally be live at this point. 92%. I can almost taste it.
We're getting there. Uh-oh, Rich says Symlink Docker file. Sounds like trouble to me. Uh-oh. May have to get him in here. Do a deep dive. But I think we're getting there. What are you at? 90-something% now?
Yeah, we're just waiting for Octo-Dash, which is the GUI, which is the lovely part of it.
So how large? Yeah, you mentioned it's a large-ish build. How many megs or gigs is this thing in the end?
Well, we'll find out. Thanks to the unicorn on the build, it seems to be working fine on the CLI. Successfully uploaded the images. There we go.
Charlie the unicorn is going to tell us in just a moment. I'm curious, to see how.
How does the unicorn get displayed, by the way? On Docker build, do you have just a bash script that executes echo these lines?
Top secret, I don't know.
There is a repo somewhere that's got all the ASCII art and scripts, and I can never find it. I always want to reference it, but I can never find it.
Yeah, because I know that we can change it. We've done it for holidays. I know I've seen a Christmas tree in there.
It's like I want to PR some more ASCII art, but I can never find the repo.
There we go. It's not that big, all things considered.
Okay. So hold on a minute. 800 megs, 442, and another 160. So 1.2, 1.3 gigs all said and done.
Yeah, it's not that bad. So we are running, and we do not see anything on the display behind me because I need to automate this process a little bit. But the amazing thing that I had a revelation about was finding out how to use MDNS with Balena OS because it's using an older version of MDNS that doesn't quite like being talked to by the official documentation. Like you can't talk to it and initiate this sort of behavior because it will have some sort of race condition in the way that it does it, in the sense that it will be like, I've got two host names now. I'm going to assign one of them, but I don't know, like maybe it forks two processes. I don't know. Don't know why it's happening, but we can't use the official method.
With Avahi, there is a known bug, and I think because I encountered this when I was working on the Fold for COVID project, because I wanted to set the host name to Fold for COVID so people could find their devices. But there is some condition where, like, Avahi sets it successfully, but then it doesn't know that it's set it, and it just loops and loops and loops.
And it keeps trying, and then it has an naming conflict because it detects it. Yeah. That's what I'm saying about the race condition. It sets it. It doesn't know that it set it, and then when it detects whether it can set it in the future, it's like, no, that's already taken, and then sets -1. So Fold for COVID -1 -2. That's known behavior. There's a few forum threads about that.
Yeah, it's an Avahi bug, so we just need to bump the version in Balena OS, and then it should sort it.
There's a few pull requests for that actually that I've not had any attention paid to them. Balena, Abahi. Maybe this is it. MetaBalena, looks like it. Yeah, so this was fixed in Abahi 0.8, and there's loads of pull requests for it in MetaBalena.
Yeah, I know Alex has been working on it. I saw him talking about it there.
Alex Lennon. It's like you're talking about Alex Lennon.
Alex GG, the one that was on the bottom of the thread there.
Yeah,
I see. Right. Okay then. So the build's sorted. Where were we going with things? I've forgotten now.
You needed to set up some variables, maybe?
Yes, I need to set up some variables. So get rid of all the script. Oh, right. I was just saying how I solved the MDNS thing. So you've got OctoBalena. Local. Boom! Look at that. And it uses the hash. It doesn't actually change the host name. It just adds a CNAME to the DNS record, just like DNS on the internet. And I don't understand MDNS fully, but I know what a CNAME is. And there was this lovely Python application called MDNS Publisher, and I used that to set a CNAME record on the MDNS via Abahi, via dbus. And there we go. So now we can go to OctoBalena.
Now that would not carry through, so that's only on, because I can see it ends in .land, so that's a local.
No, so MDNS is weird. It is actually responding to .local. For example, if I was to do this on my phone, it would work, or on a Windows machine, it would work, and this would work on any network. And this is being set by my router, and it's responding like this somehow. I don't get it, but it is actually using MDNS and Abahi. So if I go there now to http:// it redirects me to HTTPS. So this is now secure rather than just being open on port 80. And we accept the default signatures and go right through to OctoPrint. And we can also see that the public address also still works. So if we enable a public device URL and go there, even though on the LAN it's HTTPS and it redirects to HTTPS, it still works in both cases, because in the traffic config file or the traffic config file, I've told it to look at the host header, and if it's coming from a Balena domain, then it will not redirect. But if it's coming from a local domain, then it will redirect. Right. The sad thing is that I actually wanted to make it so that I could set custom domain names, like octoprint.matthewcroughan.co.uk, but I couldn't do that because the Balena VPN just denies all access when you set a CNAME pointing towards it. It doesn't know what it is unless it comes in from a Balena hostname. So balena-devices.co.uk, it doesn't accept anything else, which is secure in a way, but it should accept CNAMEs. I think there's like an open thread about that. Anyway, last step of the process is just to go set up OctoPrint and get the API key, give it to Octodash, and then it'll just like spawn the screen and you can start using Octodash, and it's great. Sorry for taking up so much time.
That's all right. We're only over by a few minutes. It's all right.
We set all these up. Anyone who wants to access my printer now can, if they can see this.
All right, everybody start
David,
printing.
get the pencil out.
Hold on. Let me get my pencil. Where's my paper?
Disable connectivity check. Disable everything. No security.
Very.
It comes preceded with some configs that allow you to do things with the hypervisor or the supervisor, like killing the process and stuff.
Mahmoud is already starting prints on your device. I see him over there. He's already uploading file.
The MDNS publisher, Rich, does not work on ARM. The OpenBalena image does not have a multi-arch image available for ARM, so I couldn't figure out how to use it, at least. And it also was like a gigabyte, whereas mine's like 62 megabytes. It's just a Python script, so I couldn't use that.
I think, Mark, you have a question.
Yeah, actually, on Tuesday we we have, yeah. Well, actually, I have this on the table just in case David asks me. So this is
That's lovely.
he never asked me anymore. Yeah.
I try to save it for our guests, but that's all right. What is that? That was on your tape. What did you just hold up? What was that?
Yeah, actually, this is so there was a challenge for COVID-19 on Hackster.io. It was the UN, United Nations, and some other companies. So actually, we help developers on Hackster to build their solutions to fight COVID-19 with Balena Fin. So we send boxes like these all around the world, actually, almost 100 of these, with Balena Fin 1.0 and the compute module and power supply. So we have now hundreds of people all around the world with Balena Fin 1.0, as I have here. So on Tuesday, 30th, we will have Ask Me Anything questions about how to put the Balena Fin 1.0 to help them to solve COVID-19, or anything that they can do with the Balena Fin to help their community or whatever. Probably it will not be a StreamYard, but we will publish the URL soon.
Yep.
So my laptop's running at 100 degrees Celsius. We might burn up here. So anyway, all I need to do now is turn the printer on, which will allow us to detect the printer. But first, I'm going to set the API key. This is the only manual step that is required, and I'd like to get rid of it at some point. Maybe I could send it over Netcat or something like this over the Docker network or something like that. But all I have to do is go to device variables, or service variables rather, and set on OctoPrint API key, and there's a bash script that goes and interprets that and launches the process differently next time.
And by the way, I see the temperature is only 99. Oh, just hit 100. But I've had my Raspberry Pi compute module inside of my Fin up to 107.5, I think is the current record. So you're getting close, but you're not there yet.
There we go. So the service has restarted.
So Matthew, so you plug the Arduino to the Raspberry Pi just through USB? So you just plug a mini or micro USB on the Arduino and then plug it into the... That's simple?
Yeah.
Okay,
that's simple. Cool. It just goes right in there. Right. One thing we might want to do first is just rotate the display, which will require one little restart. But now that this is done, it's really quite fast. It's the first setup that takes quite a long time because OctoPrint does a lot of stuff on disk. So I just need to set. Does anyone know offhand how to rotate the display? Just gonna
Chris, do you know the variable, or Mahmoud, do you know the variable off the top of your head?
It's like Balena host config display LCD rotate, I think, with underscores. I'll just double check that.
Keep it simple.
I've got it.
And it'll be variable. 2 probably.
3, no.
I said just, take off the zip ties and flip the whole thing over. Solved.
Solve it in hardware.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that requires a whole device restart. Do you know if it does?
That would, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to try and do it in the container itself, but I couldn't quite figure that out because it would not update the touchscreen matrix to go along with it.
See, I think it's display LCD rotate does the touchscreen as well, maybe.
Oh, brilliant.
And LCD rotate is just the LCD. There's a mishmash of parameters, and one of them definitely rotates the touchscreen and the screen, and one of them only does the screen. Definitely had that before.
I don't think I realized that. I didn't know you could do separation from just the screen or the touch screen as well. Interesting.
It's quite interesting that it actually exits the containers before it goes ahead and restarts. I didn't know that. So anyway,
graceful shutdown.
Properly graceful shutdown. Yeah.
Power user NVAR episode. Yeah, probably should.
Almost there now. But there's another feature. I probably won't have time to show it, but on the side here, we actually have a. I don't know if you can see that kind of like a relay, a smart relay, and that turns things on and off. And I can do that via MQTT. So I've added support for an environment variable to do that. You probably can't see it very well.
Not terribly well, but is it? I mean, essentially, it's an internet connected kill switch.
Yeah, it's just a relay, internet connected, MQTT. It's one of these things.
Yeah,
just goes on the side of the printer. And there you go. Oh boy.
Uh-oh.
I can't wait for this not to work.
Is it gonna come back? Let's see.
I mean,
here.
it's coming.
Is it?
It's starting to come online.
How do you know if you SSH'd in?
You wrote down your Wi-Fi password. But shouldn't we see the LCD light up with the Balena logo even while it's still booting and coming online?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would expect to see that.
Yeah.
Maybe we've killed the SD card. Maybe that was it. Look at the drawer.
Uh-oh, did we kill an SD card? I killed 2 of them yesterday. It's known to happen.
Oh, wow.
Hey, David, you cook yours.
You know what I'm going to do? Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be risky here. I don't care what the supervisor's doing.
Oh no.
Right, and now we'll see the Balena logo. I hope. Oh no, maybe it was the display cable this entire time.
Live troubleshooting.
Yep. There we go. Oh no, the display cable came out.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Oh dear.
Well, we were so close. We made it 99% of the way through the demo.
Getting there.
I don't know. Can you hot plug a... Chris, do you know?
I don't know about hot plugging, especially not on that screen.
Coming online.
Yeah, device is coming online. Blah blah blah. Yeah. And then my phone almost went. We're gonna do everything today, aren't we? Is this a stable place to put the phone? I don't know. It doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's good. Yeah.
No,
you didn't believe in the demo gods. Uh-huh.
Yep. Right, that looks in to me.
Don't they have the little... Hold on, where's my pie? They have the little tension, the little clip. Should keep it in place. Did the clip
It
break
does,
off?
but not when you go at it like me.
It broke the clip off.
Oh well, guess we. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
And it's the right way up now.
And it's the proper... Yeah. I didn't realize you could hot plug one of those.
You can't. I turned it off.
Oh, did you turn? I didn't see it. I missed it. So again, you didn't care what the supervisor was doing. This thing is not going to boot up.
Yeah, because that's the benefit of Balena is that it's read only, so I don't have to care what it says. I don't have to care about what the supervisor is doing. Yay, Octodash! And then we can turn. It's gonna throw a few errors and then go to sleep because it's checking if it can connect to the printer at all. So now all I need to do is wait for it to fail because it should be sleeping at this stage. And then power it on. Right? We powered the printer on using the relay. And now we tap to connect. At least it should connect. Is that a no-go? Yep, it's connected. Woohoo! How about that? Nice. So if we had files here, we could see them.
Yep.
We got filament. Skip. It's heating the nozzle, and then it's going to start this fancy filament removal procedure. So it's going ahead and removing that now, I think. No, it's not doing it because I skipped it. The firmware doesn't allow you to do anything if it's too cold. So if I would have just waited, that would have worked. But anyway, yeah, that's OctoBalena. You put it on a Pi. You connect it up to a printer, and it, for the most part, works. And you get the OctoDash thing free because it's really hard to install that otherwise on your own.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, you know, display cable issue aside, or rotating display aside, not a big deal. It was, you know, a git clone and a Balena push, or in your case, you actually just used the deploy button, so even easier. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Well,
so once that Symlink issue is fixed, the deploy button will work. I must admit I didn't test the deploy button yet, so I could have found that out beforehand.
That's all right. Let's drop the link to that repo into chat one more time, so folks have it. There, it's on screen, and we'll drop that into chat as well. And then I think we've covered pretty much everything. Anyone else out there have any further questions? We'll give folks a minute to drop in any other questions. Let's see. Let me go take a look over at YouTube chat, see if any questions are rolling in. Repo is in. No, looking good. All right. Well,
are you gonna buy a 3D printer, David?
I don't know. I'm not convinced yet. I don't know. It sounds really.
You've just difficult. Had like an hour's worth of personal tutorial.
Yeah, I know. I just had a
you have to get one now.
Tutorial on. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm a little bit scared, I admit. You know, he's got wires hanging out. You're talking about upgrading parts and having to 3D print parts to fix your 3D printer. I don't know if I can handle it. It's a lot, you know. Keep a pretty minimalistic setup here. Where would I put it? Look at all my. I mean, I don't have room for it.
Give it to the children. They can print. They can learn to print something.
That is the last thing I want to do, is allow them to run wild with a 3D printer.
Maybe I could just also show you just the last bit, not to actually do it, but how you would actually send a 3D part to the printer. Because that's the only thing that we haven't covered, is like, how do you go from Thingiverse to the 3D printer? And it's that simple. You just download the file, right? Yep. You unzip it, you open up Cura, and then you put it into Cura, and you send it to the printer over the network because of OctoPrint. Because OctoPrint in the Cura slicer is integrated, so you can actually download a plugin that will let you just send it to the printer as long as it's running OctoPrint.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I was still exporting G-code and uploading it through the web browser. I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, this plugin's really quite cool. And of course, you can even use the Balena device URL as well, and just connect it like that. So you can just use Cura and not ever have to look at the OctoPrint interface if you're.
That's cool.
That is pretty neat.
Nice.
Yeah. Laptop's running at 100 degrees Celsius, so I guess you can just end it here. But I mean, roughly explained.
I told you, I've been up to 107.5. You still got a little ways to go.
What chip was that on? What processor went up to 107?
Raspberry Pi. On a computer.
Wow.
The compute module in the fin. My ambient air temperature was, what did we come out at? In total, I can't remember. I think it was somewhere around there, though. 97, 98 Celsius. So,
there we go. Files, case top. And we'll take that. Dog artifacts, always fun. Slicing, and it's done. And this is what would happen on the printer. It would just go. These are the layer lines that you would see. You would see, zoop, and then the next layer, zoop, zoop, and it's just like tubes. And that's how 3D FDM printers work. It's just tubes of filament being deposited on a surface, and I could send that. I could print that to OctoPrint over there.
All right. Well, unless you need another fin case, I'd say don't worry about it. But
and just to show you what all these buttons do, G28 is going to home the printer just to actually do something with the printer. It's connected. G28, it's moving in the background there. Don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, you can hear it too. So
yeah, it's quite loud, that one. You wouldn't hear Chris's at all.
All right. Well, knowing that we're over on time, I am actually really appreciative of you taking the time with us this morning, and Mahmoud as well for joining and showing it off. It's really cool. So if anyone has any questions, gives it a try, by all means, reach out. We could probably even start like a forum thread devoted to it, or open up issues directly on. Actually, so Matthew, that repo that we shared, if folks have any issues or questions, to give it a try, even if they just put them in there, perhaps would be a good place as well.
Yeah, Alex has already made one or two issues because it's not going to work on all hardware out of the box, like the Raspberry Pi 4, because the Raspberry Pi 4 itself is not fully worked out yet, so it doesn't connect to certain displays and stuff like that. Okay. But in terms of attaching hardware, that's definitely going to need work, and I'm definitely going to need help because I don't have all the hardware.
Yeah, so now that I think about it, it's probably the best place is right directly on the repo. So, okay. Excellent. Well, thanks, everyone. I'll go ahead and wrap it up and close it out here. I took a glance. I didn't see any other questions come in, but hope everyone enjoyed a lesson in 3D printing today. I know I learned a lot, that's for sure. All right. Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks again. See ya.
See you later.
Bye.
Have a good weekend. Bye.